What is going on, all you Faceoff fanatics? And welcome back to the Faceoff Zone podcast, a podcast dedicated solely to the faceoff position in lacrosse. I'm your host, John Bodner, and I'm back to cover some NCAA tournament lacrosse, baby. On this episode, we're breaking down every faceoff matchup in the first round of this upcoming NCAA tournament starting tomorrow. It's going to be epic. If you haven't already, please check out the Faceoff Zone YouTube channel, where you can watch full game faceoff highlights from all different games from this college season. If you're a faceoff fanatic like us and you just want to watch the faceoffs, then giving the Faceoff Zone YouTube channel a subscribe is a must-do. So let's dive deep back into this thing. Let's get this thing going again, and let's take a dive deep into the zone. All right, we are so back. It feels good to be behind this mic again. It's been a little bit, trying to break down every face-off in college lacrosse can be a little time-consuming. So trying to juggle a podcast in between that is almost impossible. But now that I've finished kind of breaking down all the conference championship games, if you haven't seen them yet, go head over to the YouTube channel, go watch all those face-offs. I got a little time, where it's the night before the, big opening round. A lot of really good, interesting matchups at the face-off stripe. I'll kind of break it down game by game right now. We'll start with tomorrow's games, the Saturday slate. And let's get right into it. I don't want to waste anybody's time. It felt weird kind of. And listen, by the way, I logged back into this thing and I didn't realize how I was able to kind of see all how many views I get on this. And I got to be honest, I was really taken back by how many people listened. And I got a lot of really nice things from people on social media and emails and stuff like that. So I'm happy all you sick face-off fanatics enjoyed it. So who knows? Maybe we'll keep this thing rolling. You never know. But again, I'm not here to waste your time. So let's get right into tomorrow's slate. Let's talk about Virginia and Richmond. All right, the in-state rivalry, if you want to call it that, the big showdown in Virginia. Well, first off, shout out to Petey LaSala out there, drafted by the Whipsnakes. I think that's a good fit for him. It'll be interesting seeing him play with all the Maryland guys on that team. We were kind of joking about that on Instagram when I congratulated him. It'll be a good fit for him. But I know he still wants to go out with. He's got that killer instinct. He wants another ring. I think obviously Virginia's loaded this year, and Petey is key. He's money. As we all know, he's money in the when it matters. He's playing Richmond, who they played earlier in the season and they destroyed. They won 25-8. Petey was 19 of 26 with 10 ground balls in that game. Jared Chenoy was 8 of 27 with 5 ground balls. I mean, look, Petey, again, he's having a great season. He's already won 222 faceoffs this year. He's scooped up 112 ground balls. He's got 10 goals, 0 assists, by the way. So I don't know what's going on with that. Petey, you got to get some assists there. Maybe this, these next couple weeks, maybe try to get those points up. I was a little surprised when I saw the 0 assists, but he's 56% on the season. I don't know. There's not much to really say in this game. I think Jared Chenoy definitely wants to, he's going to have a lot of eyeballs on him in this game. Anytime you're playing UVA, a lot of people are going to be watching. I know he's a competitor. He wants to do, I'm sure he wants to do better than he did earlier in the season. But that's a tall task. He's just not, it's not a great matchup. If this game gets a little out of control, I could see Mac Eldridge stepping in to try to save Petey for possible later rounds, unless this game is close. And who knows? Listen, a year ago, not this year, but a year ago, Richmond beat UVA. Again, granted, there was a couple people out that game. Petey, I think, actually got knocked out in that game. He was 9 of 10, and then they took him out, I remember. So it's playoff time, so you never know. But I mean, Yeah, I just think Virginia wins, and I think Petey and Mac will play well, and that's really it. I mean, that's all I got. That's all I got. So we'll stop there. I think Petey, if it goes the way I'm thinking, he'll be done. If they're smart, they'll pull him as early as they can and try to keep him well rested for some of these later rounds. Because I'll tell you what, I'm rooting hard for a Georgetown Virginia rematch, because if anybody remembers, James Riley got knocked out after the first face-off in that game, and then Petey kind of ran wild. But boy, would I love to see another LaSalle James Riley matchup before they, who knows, maybe play against each other in the PLO one day. So Virginia wins, Petey wins. We'll stop there. Next up, let's talk Notre Dame and Utah. All right, let's get into our next matchup here. We got Notre Dame, Utah on Saturday. These two teams, I don't believe, have ever played each other before. Utah, congratulations to them, their first time in the tournament. What they've been able to do since they became a Division I team is been unbelievable. I'm a big fan of their face-off guy, Cole Brams, who's coming off a red-hot ASUN championship run. I mean, the dude was 21 of 23 with 18 ground balls in the championship against Air Force. It was unbelievable. If you haven't seen that game yet, go check it out on the YouTube channel. Brams, he's a big, strong kid. I mean, he's 60% on the season. He's taken 430 faceoffs. He's won 254 of them. He's got 4 goals, 7 assists. He's playing in the ASUN conference, which isn't, it's not the ACC, but I went back and kind of looked at some of his games. I mean, he went 50% against Hopkins earlier in the season. He went over 50% on Rutgers. It was a little under 50% against Alex Stathakis at Denver and Tommy Burke at Vermont. They kind of had his they were the victors in those games, but he still battled. I mean, I've been watching this kid for a couple years now, and he's a problem. I mean, he's got quick hands. He's good at scrapping. He's got a pretty good stick. He's going to need to be really smart on his exits tomorrow, because he's playing a Notre Dame team who I compare it to like the Detroit Pistons of like the 80s. If you've seen those 30 for 30s, I mean, Will Lynch is like that big white guy from the Detroit Pistons. I mean, like punching dudes in the face, like in the paint. Like Lynch is like, yeah, he's a tough dude. I mean, he's not having the strongest year from a face-off like stats standpoint, but I wouldn't want to play against this kid. I mean, he's 46% on the year. He's had some big games where he's just destroyed guys, and then he's had some kind of like, not so good games, but he's still 46% on the year. I mean, like he destroyed Ohio State, destroyed Syracuse, but then he kind of struggled against some of the other ACC guys. But when he struggled, I mean, you threw this Colin Hagstrom kid in, who's 42% on the year. He's taken 118 faceoffs, and he's stepped in and he's had some pretty big moments for the Irish. Both these guys, though, I mean, they don't care if they lose the clamp, right? I mean, like they fight you. I mean, not just them, but the whole faceoff unit, the poles, the short sticks, they will fight you to the bitter end. I mean, Christ, if the ball gets down to the attack, even the Kavanaugh brothers, they want blood. I mean, this team will just suffocate you if you're not smart with the ball. I mean, if you're not exiting and getting the ball out to your outlets as fast as you can, you're a dead man. So if Cole Brams is out there listening, I mean, be smart with your exits tomorrow. If you can beat these guys off the whistle, I mean, be smart, because they are going to be right on you. They will not stop. So, hey, there's my 2 cents on that game. I mean, yeah, I mean, just writing some notes here. I mean, Utah needs to be really smart with exiting, get the ball out to their outlets as quickly as possible. Listen, I mean, I love Brams, but I think Notre Dame wins this game. The percentages, it could be 50-50, but like, I expect Will Lynch or Hagstrom to kind of get a couple cause turnovers on Brams possibly, and vice versa. I mean, this could be. I mean, Brams is a tough kid too, so this will be a really fun battle to watch in the middle. But at the end of the day, I think Notre Dame wins, and I think the Notre Dame face-off unit goes a little bit over 50%. I'll go like 55, 60%. But Cole Brams, great season. But Notre Dame, this is just they're an amazing team. So I'm sure I'll be talking about them in some of these later rounds. So I'll stop there. Notre Dame, I think they move on. Next up, let's get into Georgetown and Yale. All right, we got our next matchup here. We got Georgetown and Yale. This is going to be a fun one to watch as well. I mean, James Riley, what can you say about the guy? You know, he's a graduate player. Just got drafted. He's Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the PLL draft this year to the Water Dogs. Congratulations to him. He's had an unbelievable career at Georgetown. He's just taken like a zillion face-offs. Has had a lot, scored a lot of points for them as well. Was a little worried about him at the end of during the Big East championship game. He kind of went down with what seemed like a little hamstring injury or something, but I'm hoping that he is back to full health and that he is playing in this Yale game, because God knows they're going to need him. Riley is 59% on the season. He's won 202 faceoffs out of 341. He's had some really big games this year and some big moments. I mean, he was 15 of 25 against Notre Dame, 13 of 25 against Princeton. He had a battle, just a war against Mike Sisselberger of Lehigh. He was 2 under 50% in that game. But I mean, you look at all of his games from the season, and it's very rare he's gone under 50%. I mean, he's a big, strong kid. I mean, he's 6 foot, 195. He's playing against a guy at Yale now who's also a very big, strong kid, and Nick Ramsey. Nick Ramsey, 6 foot, 6'1", 205. It says on the roster. I mean, he's a unit. He's another guy. He's gone 54% on the season. He's been a little up and down, but lately, I mean, he's really starting to turn it back on again. He struggled a little bit earlier in the season, but I mean, he just had a monster game against Cornell. If anybody watched that a week or two ago, and then you sprinkle in Mac Rodriguez, the sophomore, who will give you a goal or I mean, he's just so quick off the whistle. He's dangerous. If you remember what was it in the Harvard game? Ramsey went down and had like an assist off the face-off, and then they threw Mac Rodriguez in, and then he went down and just buried a goal. I mean, they're just a little bit different in that aspect, where Mac's hands might be a little bit faster, but Ramsey is just like he's a ram. I mean, he's like a bull out there. Riley versus Ramsey. I would expect, everyone knows about the Riley rake. I would expect to see Riley trying to mix it up a little bit, not just clamping, but just throwing the rake at him a little bit. I expect Ramsey to, if he loses off the whistle, I mean, he's going to throw those counters in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, I mean, I just think if Riley isn't fully healthy, it's going to be a problem. I mean, they need to win possessions against Yale. They got to set the tone early. And again, like I was talking about earlier with Virginia, like I would love to see a James Riley versus Petey LaSala second round. I mean, that would be phenomenal. So, but they got to get past Yale first, and they got to get past Nick Ramsey first, and that's a tall task. And I don't know. My gut tells me Georgetown wins this game. I think Riley goes a little bit over 50, but I don't know if Georgetown can get a early lead. We might see some of Georgetown's backups kind of come in and try to get the job done against these guys. But I don't know. Yale. I mean, Yale is scary. They're a team that's been here before. And this isn't Andy Shea's first rodeo, so I really don't know. But stay tuned. I think I am going with Georgetown winning the game and Riley going a little bit over 50. So who knows? I'll probably be eating my words, but I'll stop there. Let's move on. Let's go over to Maryland Army. We're going to talk Maryland Army coming up next. You're not going to want to miss this one. We are back, baby. All right, we're back at it here. We're talking about our next Saturday matchup. We got Maryland versus Army. Maryland taking a lot of heat this year. John Tillman taking a lot of heat. Some of it I don't agree with. Some of it maybe I do, but I'm going to leave my personal opinions out of that. Let's get into the face-offs. I mean, Will Coletti. Let's talk about Will Coletti of Army real quick. I mean, if anybody watched the semifinal game where Coletti played Mike Sis, I mean, that was a very impressive, a very dominant first half that he had against Mike Sisselberger. Mike kind of caught up to him a little bit in the second half and kind of, the stats kind of made it, it was maybe a little bit over 50 for Coletti, but he's scary. I mean, he was red hot in the Patriot League tournament. Then he went on and just destroyed Loyola in the championship game. He has a great stick. I mean, he's extremely tough. He's got 10 points on the year, so he's not afraid to take it to the rack. He's extremely confident right now. He's taken 355 face-offs. He's won 221 of them. He's 56% on the season. I don't think he's scared of anybody right now. And he's playing against a guy, Luke Weirman at Maryland, who, again, doesn't shy away from big moments either. Luke Weirman, I mean, he's 234 of 381 on the season. He's 61% on the season. He's not putting up the stats that he did per se last season, but I mean, he's still 61% on the year. I mean, the Michigan guys kind of got him a little bit this year, so maybe that's what's leaving a bad taste in people's mouths about Weirman. But I'm not betting against this guy in the playoffs either. I think Maryland is still Maryland's until someone tells me otherwise. Until I see it tomorrow and they lose to Army, but until they lose, I will never bet against them. I think this game's going to come down to the team ground balls. I mean, listen, if Weirman or Coletti wins it off the whistle, wins the faceoff, I think both Coletti and Weirman are athletic and scrappy enough where, I mean, we're going to see them strip each other, after the ball's in their stick. So I'm going to have my eyes on the faceoff wins, but I'm also going to have my eyes on caused turnovers for these guys, because I think again, this is going to be another war in the middle. Army has some great wings. Maryland has some great wings. I mean, these guys. I'm curious to kind of see what each team's game plan is going to be with the wings. Are they is Army going to try to shut off and just have Coletti just go to town against Weirman, or I don't know. I'm not buying. People are trying to say on Twitter that they're kind of sniffing that Army upset. I'm not buying it. I think Maryland wins the game, but I mean, as far as the faceoffs go, I'm going to bet. Listen, I mean, Weirman's been in big situations before. I mean, Coletti is certainly very confident, But I am going to this is going to be another like 55-45 for me. I think Weirman gets the slight edge, but I mean, Coletti's really put a name for himself out there. I mean, after this season, he's going to be the guy to beat in the Patriot League. He's going to be one of the bigger names for face-off guys in all of college lacrosse. I mean, I have a lot of respect for this kid. I think the Army staff has done a great job. Shout out to Justin Ward. I mean, he's been talking about this kid for a while, and I see what he's saying now. I mean, he's the real deal. So, but again, I'm still not betting against the Terps and Luke Weirman. So, stay tuned for my reaction to this one, and I, hopefully all of you guys will be able to watch this game live. But if you don't, I'll give you one guess where to watch it if you miss it. So, that's all I got. Maryland wins. Weirman slight edge. I'll take that to the house. God, who knows? I could be just totally wrong, but stay tuned. We'll see. Let's get into our last game of the – oh, no, that was the last game of Saturday. Let's get into our Sunday games now. Let's get into – coming up next, we have Hopkins versus Bryant. Hopkins versus Bryant coming up next. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking Sunday games now. We're going into Hopkins versus Bryant. Two teams with kind of two duos. Let's talk about Hopkins first. Hopkins, it's kind of a weird team with facing off this year. I kind of in the beginning of the season was kind of had Logan Callahan and Tyler Dunn as the two guys, but Logan Callahan, for whatever reason, has kind of fallen off this season. Hasn't gotten the majority of reps like I thought he would. Tyler Dunn and Matt Naruski. Naruski, who's been battling injuries, he's now back. They both shown flashes in games. Naruski, I was pretty impressed with. He was two under 50% against Weirman back in the Big Ten tournament recently. Tyler Dunn, I mean, he's 51% on the season. He's got 116 wins. He beat Zach Cole earlier in the season. That was a pretty impressive showing by Tyler Dunn. But then he goes and gets just destroyed by Penn State, by the Penn State guys. So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I have no idea who's going to step up for these guys in this game. Both Naruski and Dunn are so different style players. Naruski's like super tall. Dunn's like a short, quick kid. I don't know, because you have a duo with Bryant. I mean, the Bryant duo, who, as everyone knows, I'm huge fans of. The Hopkins guys are going to have their hands full against these Bryant guys. I mean, let's talk about the Bryant guys. I mean, Nathan LaLiberty is having a monster year for Bryant. A couple years ago, he's been battling some injuries, but he is back. Just like this podcast, baby, he is back, and he's taken 305 faceoffs. He's won 100. He's won 183 of 305. He has 111 ground balls. He's got 7 goals. I mean, he kind of has that like Canadian kind of style to him. The way he passes and shoots. And I mean, listen, I mean, he's had some monster games this season. I mean, he was 19 of 28 on Tommy Burke, who's got All-American this year. He was 14 of 26 against Will Gunty at Brown, who was the first team All-Ivy guy. I mean, Nathan LaLiberty is not messing around. And then you have Jacob Alexander, who is kind of taking a back seat this year to LaLiberty, but he's still extremely, extremely dangerous. I mean, he had a sick goal in the America East championship game, if you haven't seen that. I'll never forget what he did against P.D. LaSalle 2 years ago when we all had no idea who he was. That was an incredible performance he put on against them. I mean, these two guys are battle tested, and on paper, I think Hopkins will probably win the game. But face-offs, I'm going with the Bryant duo. I think these guys want respect. They're going to have a lot of eyeballs on them. It's going to be on TV. I mean, these guys want the respect that they deserve. And I think Hopkins has to, they better show up ready tomorrow because I wouldn't want to play La Liberty or Alexander, especially on a national spotlight. So, Jacob Alexander, he's taken about 100 less, about 100. He took 250 faceoffs last year. This year he took 173. So I don't know. He's certainly fresh, but La Liberty's hot right now. So I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of see. I have no idea if La Liberty goes against Naruski, will La Liberty will he do better against Naruski or Dunn? Or who knows? Maybe Dunn will come in against La Liberty and just be a little bit faster off the whistle. I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see which guys will be mismatches for each other. Obviously Hopkins and Bryant didn't play this year, so I have nothing to kind of base this off of. But I'm gonna, just prediction wise, I mean, it's hard for me to think that Hopkins isn't going to win this game. But from a face-off standpoint, I definitely think Bryant wins. And I think sorry, Hopkins guys, but I think La Liberty and Alexander run wild on these guys. I'm going 70-ish%. So, it could be a freezing cold take. I could end up on freezing cold takes on Monday morning, but I'm willing to take that risk. So I'll stop there. I think Hopkins wins the game, but I think the Bryant duo, I think they prevail on the national spotlight. So moving forward, let's kind of get into our next game here. Let's talk about another good duo kind of matchup here. We're going to talk about Cornell and Michigan coming up next. All right, we're back, baby. Next Sunday game is Cornell versus Michigan. Two teams with a pair of duos that have certainly gained a lot of national attention. That Dan Artesia dude was asking, does Michigan have the best 1-2 punch at the faceoff position in college lacrosse? I would have to maybe agree. I think Michigan has a good one. I think Cornell, who we're about to talk about, has a good one. And then obviously I think people are forgetting about the Bryant guys as well. But Michigan, I mean, that duo right now is just rolling. They've absolutely exploded onto the scene. They were red hot in the Big Ten tournament. Congratulations to Nick Rowlett getting drafted to the Chaos in the PLL draft. Justin Wheatfeld, I would imagine, will be on a PLL team the following year. But let's get into this battle of the duos here. Nick Rowlett having a great season. He's won 127 faceoffs out of 220. He's 57% on the season with 86 ground balls. Justin Wheatfeld, I mean, it just exploded this year. 132 of 197 faceoffs. Kid's got 150 ground balls. He's got 5 goals and an assist. I mean, I remember. He's one of the few guys that's really done well against Luke Weirman at Maryland this year. He kind of almost has his number right now. Just crazy fast hands. I mean, the kid's got some wheels as well. What I like about this Michigan duo is, and what the coaching staff does is, they just, no matter what, they kind of go 1-1. So if you're playing against a team that just has just one faceoff guy going out there, and you're throwing out Rowlett for one, and then Wheatfeld for another, I mean, that's a tall task. I mean, that's two different kind of styles that two totally different styles you need to be ready for. I mean, Rowlett's a little bit more of like a grinder, like he's kind of better with the 50-50 ground balls and stuff like that. And Wheatfeld's just like lightning quick off the whistle. It's going to be, I mean, they're a problem right now. And I would not want to play these guys at all in the tournament. And so it's going to be a tall task for these Cornell guys. Let's kind of get into the Cornell guys here. The freshman Jack Cascadden has really impressed me this season. The dude's 6'3", 220. I had heard about him. I obviously knew about him in high school, and he had a heck of a career at Garden City, and he's taken 190 faceoffs this year. He's won 99 of them. He's got 58 ground balls. Again, he's huge, but like he's so fat. Like I can't believe, like when you watch him, it's hard to imagine. It's just like hard for me to believe that a guy that big could have hands that fast, like to the point where like it almost looks like he's kind of like McMeekin, like he's just like from Princeton, who we'll talk about, but just crazy fast hands. Stepped in this year. He's really done a good job. He's taken care of business. He's been starting most of the games for Cornell. For his sake, I hope he's on the right end of the whistle tomorrow against Wheatfeld and Rowlett. He's got to be real smart with his exits as well. Rowlett is, he will. I mean, both those guys, they're also very good lacrosse players as well. They're very confident in their lacrosse abilities. So, Cascadden really has to be smart with the ball, get it to his offensive teammates as fast as he can. If not, it's going to be a long day. But the second part to that duo for Cornell is Angelo Petrakis, who's like the total opposite, body-wise. He's 5'8", $185. I wouldn't say he's not as like fast off, like off the whistle, like going forward than Cascadden is. But, I mean, the guy's got a ton of experience. He took 445 faceoffs last year. This year, how many has he? He's only taken 124. So, wow, that's insane. But yeah, he's 65 of 124 this year. He has 34 ground balls. He's struggled a little bit this season, but he's shown some flashes lately. I mean, if anybody watched that Princeton game, I mean, he stepped in for when Cascadden was struggling, and he won 13 of 15 against the Princeton guys. So, again, he's got a ton of experience. I mean, he faced off in the national championship game last year. So, he's not going to shy away from these big moments. So, I don't know how it's hard for me to imagine how he's going to match up against Rowlett or Wheatfeld. I think he might match up against a Rowlett a little bit better. And then Cascadden versus Wheatfeld is just going to be like speed versus speed. But we'll see. We'll see how the rotation kind of goes. Michigan is hot right now, but I'm going. It's hard for me to bet against Cornell. I think Cornell wins the game, but I think the Michigan duo goes like 60-40. If I was a betting man right now, I'd go 60-40 Michigan duo over the Cornell guys. But we'll see. God knows I've been wrong before. But this will be a fun one to watch. The Cornell duo versus the Michigan duo. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the, for the results from that one. Next game, let's get into on Sunday. Let's talk Duke versus Delaware. Duke versus Delaware coming up next. All right, we're back at it here. We're talking face-offs. We're getting into Duke versus Delaware. I don't have much to really say about this one. I mean, congratulations to Delaware again. I mean, what Delaware did last year against Georgetown was incredible. I don't necessarily see it happening with Duke this year. Um, Watching the Delaware Faceoff guys this year, they've been a little bit up and down. They struggled big time against Rennes Conlin and Stony Brook in the CAA championship game. But I got to give them credit. I mean, they did a nice job against Marist in that opening round of the NCAA tournament. I think it was on Wednesday. Logan Premtage was 57% and Roland Hockenberry was 62%. But Logan Premtage is kind of still coming off that injury. He's still kind of getting back into the swing of things. Hockenberry again has been up and down, but they've been a little too a little too up and down for me. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that Jake Naso isn't going to run wild on them tomorrow. I mean, let's talk about Jake Naso of Duke. He had a monster freshman year. Last year, a little bit of a sophomore slump. Struggled a little bit, but he has come out just swinging this year. And I think in the first, the All-American stuff just started coming out, and I think U.S. Lacrosse Magazine had him at first team, and I think he deserves it. You look at his individual kind of breakdown of who he's played this year and his face-off stats, and it's outrageous. I mean, he's taken, again, 398 face-offs so far this season. He's won 254 of them. He's 64% on the year, 5 goals, 3 assists. I mean, other than getting his ass kicked by Petey LaSala just one time this year, he then goes and destroys Petey in later that season. And then he pretty much beats everybody else in the ACC. I mean, handily. Even out of conference, he beat Zach Cole. He beat Alex Stathakis at Denver. He's just been feeling it this year. I mean, he's not as much like guessing on the whistle. Like he's just looks way more confident. He's beating guys to the ball as well. He's not just relying on his clamping anymore. Like he's a bad man. And I mean, and when you throw Naso, all those possessions he's winning that Duke offense, I mean, this game could get out of control pretty fast. And if I'm Duke, and if it does get out of control, you have a backup in Jamie Zuzi, who's been a 3-year starter at Penn, and he's barely played this year. So get him in as early as you can and save Naso for the big ones. But I don't know. Delaware beat Georgetown last year, so what the hell do I know? And the Delaware guys did a pretty nice job on James Riley and in the middle of the field. So the night before this game, I'm on like my second glass of red wine here. I just don't see it. I just don't see Jake Naso not going. I'll go 68%, 68% or over. If he's not 68% or over, then thank God I didn't bet it, because I could have lost a lot. I would put a lot of money on that right now. I think Duke wins the game pretty handily, and I think Naso rolls. So Delaware guys, if you're listening, prove me wrong. Because God knows, again, I've been way wrong before. So hey, stay tuned. That's all I got on Duke and Delaware. Congratulations to Jake Naso on a first-team All-American season. But let's get into, our last game already. The last game on the slate here on Sunday. Sunday night up at Happy Valley at 7:30. We're going to talk Penn State versus Princeton. Penn State versus Princeton coming up next. All right, so here we go. We got our last game of the weekend here. We got Penn State versus Princeton up at Happy Valley. Let's get into Princeton. First off, Tyler Sandoval had a pretty nasty knee injury, about a month or two ago, and I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. He's a great kid. I know, he'll come. He'll probably he's a sicko. He'll come back. Stronger and faster than ever, probably. So heal up, Tyler. But let's get into this. Let's get into this matchup here. Let's talk about the freshman Andrew McMeekin. Andrew McMeekin out of Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. He's a big boy. I mean, he's 6'1", 210. He's stepped into the starting role these past couple games, and he's getting. You could tell if you're watching these games on the YouTube channel, he's getting more and more confident each week. He's 41 of 79 on the season. He's got 26 ground balls. He's like a Cascadin, big, strong guy, but lightning fast hands. If you watch the Ivy League championship game against Yale, against a veteran like Ramsey, I mean, McMeekin looked like a veteran out there. I mean, he was 16 of 29 against Yale with 12 ground balls. It was extremely impressive for a freshman. So the kid, I mean, I've known him for a long time, so I'm a little biased, but I'll tell you, I mean, he's extremely strong, extremely athletic. His counters are deadly. I mean, if you watch him, the way he can counter a guy, I mean, he'll, if you're not balanced if you want to clamp and you're not pulling it out, you're going to end up with your helmet on the ground. Like he will leave guys on their faces on the ground. He's just, I mean, he's extremely physical. So it's going to be an interesting matchup with Penn State. Let's get into Penn State. I mean, Chase Mullins has been their starter, the UNC transfer, who's put together some nice games this season. But I'm looking at his last 3 games, and he's been struggling a little bit. I mean, he was 10 of 23 against Michigan, 8 of 23 against Rutgers, and 7 of 24 again against Michigan. So, again, a lot of people have been struggling against Michigan, but Chase Mullins needs to have he needs to have a bounce back game here. He's 125 of 260 faceoffs on the season. He's 48% on the season with 44 ground balls. The next closest guy on the team, Hudson Bond, has taken 105 faceoffs. He's won 49 of them, and he's got 30 ground balls. So he's taken like 150 less faceoffs than Mullins, but he's almost got more ground balls than Mullins. So if I'm Prince and this isn't a great matchup for Mullins, because Mullins, he's really good with like communicating with his wings and getting the ball out to the right guys, but he's playing against a Princeton team with Jake Stevens flying off the wings. And if anybody's been listening to me for the past 2 years, this like my whole like Instagram page has become like a Jake Stevens like fan page. I mean, I should just start an Instagram page of just Jake Stevens highlights. I mean, this guy will take a ball off the wing and just do some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. He's unbelievable. And I cannot wait to see where he's taking his 5th year next year. I'm dying to know, because I'm dying to congratulate whatever faceoff guy is, whatever faceoff guy is on the team he's headed to. I want to, be the first one to congratulate that guy, because that guy like hit like the Powerball. But again, I'm getting off my soapbox here. This isn't a Jake Stevens podcast, which I'm thinking about starting, but not tonight. But going back to the Penn State Princeton matchup here, I don't know. I think I'm forgetting about Kobe Ginder as well, who stepped in sometimes when McMeekin has struggled and when Sandoval has struggled. And Kobe Ginder is no slouch either. So I just think based off of what McMeekin was able to do in the Ivy League tournament, I think he'll get the start tomorrow. I think if he, gets into a groove early, it's going to be tough for Mullins. McMeekin, he could be a little hopefully he doesn't have too many violations in the first half. I hope he stays on on the right side of the whistle. Same with Mullins and Bond. They could be a little bit jumpy in the first half, but I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I think I'm going to give the edge to McMeekin and Ginder. I'll go like I'll go maybe 65-35. As far as whoever wins the game, I don't know. Penn State, they beat all the Ivies earlier in the season. I feel like they're the Ivy killer. So I don't know. I guess I'll go Princeton, but it'll be very close, maybe overtime type game. And I think the Princeton face-off unit comes out victorious as well. But I could easily end up on freezing cold takes on that one. Chase Mullins needs a bounce back game. He's certainly capable of doing that. He's very smart with getting the ball out and getting the ball to his outlets. So if I'm Princeton, I'm locking off those wings and I'm just saying, hey, if you want to beat us, you got to get by McMeekin. And that's a tall task. I mean, McMeekin's a big boy. So stay tuned for this one, guys. This is going to be a fun one. The nightcap on Mother's Day here on Sunday night. So we shall see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'll leave it at that. So that's it. That's all I got for the games. This was fun. I really love talking face-offs, as you all know. So maybe we'll do a little follow-up to these games next week sometime when I'm done breaking them all down. And we can talk about maybe the next week's matchups. But, dude, we are so back. We are so back. All right, so that's going to do it for our NCAA tournament face-off breakdown. First episode of 2023. I apologize. It's been a little bit, but maybe I can hop back on here next week once I break down all the first round games and throw them on the YouTube channel. We can talk about the next round. But I want to thank everybody, as always, for the support. Again, if you haven't checked out the Faceoff Zone YouTube channel, please go give it a subscribe. Go check out the Instagram page. Maybe give it a follow. Always trying to put up some fun posts there. And as always, if you have a busy Mother's Day weekend, you can't watch some of these games live, head over to the Faceoff Zone YouTube channel. Watch the full game face-off highlights from every single NCAA first round game this weekend. That'll do it for me. And as always, I will see you guys in the zone.